The mountains were quiet that day, too quiet for a hunting ground that had fed generations. My grandfather noticed it before he ever saw them. No birds cried, no insects stirred. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. He was halfway up the slope, rifle slung across his shoulder, when the path ahead darkened. Shapes moved between the trees. One became two, two became many. A pack of foxes stepped out from the forest, their bodies slender, their eyes unnaturally bright. They did not snarl, they did not flee. They blocked the road. At the center stood a vixen larger than the rest, her fur pristine, her gaze calm and unsettlingly human. She stepped forward, and then she spoke. "Child of men," she said clearly, in flawless human language. "Will you be willing to serve as my disciple? Build an altar for me. Burn incense. Acknowledge my name." My grandfather froze. Foxes did not speak. Everyone knew that. Stories said they could, but only fools believed stories until they were standing inside them. Fear hollowed out his thoughts. He did not understand what it meant to be a disciple, what kind of vow was being offered, or what refusal might cost him. All he knew was that something ancient and powerful stood before him, and that power did not belong to the human world. Panic chose for him. He raised his rifle and pulled the trigger. The sound shattered the mountain silence. The vixen collapsed, blood staining the earth beneath her body. The foxes scattered, shrieking as they vanished into the trees. Only when the echoes faded did my grandfather realize what he had done. Among hunters, one rule was older than any law. Foxes remember. Foxes repay. Kill one, and it will follow your bloodline until nothing remains. Shaking, my grandfather looked at the body on the ground, and then at 3 fox cubs trembling nearby, too young to flee. Reason died where fear ruled. He killed them too. Before nightfall, he burned all 4 bodies to ash. Then, carrying nothing but guilt and terror, he hid deep in the mountains for 7 days and 7 nights, drinking rainwater, eating roots, waiting for punishment that did not come. When he finally returned home, he convinced himself it had been a terrible but isolated event. He was wrong. 3 months later, his 2 sons awoke screaming. Their cries were not human. My grandfather rushed into the yard and recoiled. The faces staring back at him were no longer those of men. Their mouths stretched too wide, their noses elongated. Beneath human skin, the shape of foxes pressed outward, twisting bone and flesh. Terrified, he locked them inside the cattle shed and sent word for a ritual master. The first shaman took 1 step into the courtyard, felt the air, and fled without a word. The second turned pale and whispered, "Your family has offended something that should never be angered." Finally, Master Lu arrived, and froze in horror the moment he crossed the threshold. "What great being have you provoked?" he demanded. "They have already issued a warning. They want your entire family buried with theirs." Then he left. No spell, no protection. By dawn, both sons were dead in the cattle shed. That night, my grandfather hanged himself beneath the roof beam, leaving behind a home emptied by terror. Only one survived. A little girl, my mother. She was too young to understand why she woke up an orphan. She only knew that one night she had parents and brothers, and the next she had none. To survive, she was taken in as a child bride by another family. She grew quietly, carefully, believing that if she lived gently enough, fate might finally look away. She married, she hoped, but the curse had only slept. Her first pregnancy ended before it truly began. The second produced a child that could not be named human, its face sharp, its features fox-like, its body cold at birth. The villagers whispered. My mother stopped crying. The third time, a son was born alive. For a brief moment, the family believed the curse had weakened. The child did not cry much. He was calm, obedient. But at night, he crawled into the chicken coop and drank blood from the throats of sleeping birds. He did not eat the meat, only the blood. Within weeks, every chicken was dead. Neighbors began to point. Mothers pulled their children away. They called my mother a demon. They said she had birthed a monster. My father, kind but bound by fear of shame, tied the child inside the house. That night, the boy vanished. They searched the village. They searched the fields. At last, driven by desperation, my father broke the taboo and entered the forbidden forest to the east, where a ruined temple stood abandoned. Inside the temple, they found the body. The child lay stiff, mouth stuffed with burned paper money, a twisted smile frozen on his face, as if he had died celebrating something only he could see. My father never recovered. He raved for a month, then fell silent. The curse had not loosened its grip. It had only tightened, and the foxes were still watching. After the third child died, the house became a place where even daylight felt unwelcome. My mother stopped speaking unless spoken to. My father aged 10 years in a single season, and my grandmother, the only elder left who still believed something could be done, made a decision no one dared to question. She went to find Master Lu. This time she did not come with excuses or requests. She came with offerings, with kneeling, with silence. Master Lu had aged since the last time he set foot near our family. When he saw my grandmother, his hands trembled. He did not invite her inside. He did not offer tea. Instead, he said, "You should have let the bloodline end." My grandmother bowed until her forehead touched the ground. "I know," she replied, but the child did not choose to be born. Master Lu closed his eyes for a long time. Then he asked for eggs. 240 chicken eggs. No one understood why, but the eggs were gathered, crate after crate, stacked in the courtyard like pale, fragile stones. At midnight, Master Lu began the ritual. He cracked the eggs one by one into a basin of water. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then the whites darkened, not cloudy, black, thick as ink. By the 50th egg, the water looked like a pool of shadow. Master Lu dropped the last shell and stepped back as if burned. "This is not a single curse," he whispered. "This is a blood debt." He refused to continue. "What must we do?" my grandmother asked. Master Lu shook his head. "If this line continues, more will die. If it ends, the debt ends with it." That night, my grandmother walked alone to the ruined temple in the eastern forest, the same place where the child had been found dead. By morning, she was hanging from the temple beam. No curse was lifted, but something changed. Years passed. The family moved far away, hoping distance might confuse fate. My parents lived quietly, never speaking of the past, never returning to the old village. They believed silence might pass as repentance. Then one winter night, my father found a woman collapsed near the mountain path. She was beautiful in a way that did not belong to the modern world. Her skin was pale as moonlight. Her hair spilled across the snow like ink. She was heavily pregnant and bleeding. "Please," she whispered, "help me return to Qingqiu Mountain." They brought her inside. She did not eat human food. She drank only warm water. At dawn, labor began. The birth was fast, too fast. A girl was born. The moment the child cried, the woman screamed, not in pain, but in relief. Then her body convulsed, fur burst through her skin. Bones cracked and reshaped. Before my parents' eyes, the woman became a white fox and died. My mother fell to her knees. The child, however, was human. 3 fox cubs appeared at the door by nightfall. They did not attack. They bowed their heads. One of them, a fox with many tails, spoke. "She died repaying an old debt," it said. "You may leave the child, or you may return her to Chingqiu and receive our gratitude." My father chose the mountain. They buried the fox mother properly. They carried the infant through snow and stone until they reached a place where mist never lifted. The foxes took the child and left behind gold. My parents refused it. From that day on, something unseen followed them home. Not with hatred, but with watchfulness. When my mother became pregnant again, the nights filled with knocking. A woman's voice whispered from outside the door. "Give up the child. End the line." My father begged Master Liu one last time. This time the old man listened. He warned them. The child would live 18 years, no more, unless fate itself was rewritten. At the child's full moon, 2 hens were sacrificed on Qingqiu Mountain. A small white fox appeared and ate its fill. "This one," Master Liu said, "is bound to him." That child was me, and the fox never left, not even now. I was born on a night when the moon hid itself. No stars, no wind, the kind of silence that feels deliberate. My mother labored for hours, her screams swallowed by the walls, of a house that had already heard too many deaths. Outside, something walked in circles. Footsteps scraped the dirt, slowly, patiently, as if counting time. My father barred the door. Then came the knocking. 3 knocks, always 3. A woman's voice slid through the cracks in the wood, soft and coaxing. "You've suffered enough. End it here. Give the child to us." My mother bit down on a cloth and did not answer. The knocking turned violent. The walls shook. Shadows pressed against the paper windows. Too many limbs, too many joints bending the wrong way. At dawn, I was born. I did not cry. Master Liu arrived before sunrise. He stood at the threshold and refused to step inside until my father burned incense and recited the names of every ancestor he could remember. When Master Liu finally entered, he stared at me for a long time. "This child walks between ledgers," he said, "one kept by men, one kept by foxes." I opened my eyes. The room filled with the smell of iron. Master Liu drew a blade across a rooster's throat and let the blood drip into a bowl. My lips moved toward it instinctively. I drank without choking. No one spoke. When the bowl was empty, the knocking outside stopped. Master Liu wrapped a red thread around my wrist and whispered, 18 years. That was all he said. At my full moon ceremony, the sky turned gray at noon. 2 hens were carried to Qingqiu Mountain. My parents followed Master Liu in silence. They did not dare look back. At the stone altar, the hens were sacrificed. Their blood soaked into the earth, steaming despite the cold. Something moved in the mist. A small white fox emerged, no larger than a dog. Its fur was spotless, its eyes old. It ate slowly, deliberately, as if tasting not meat but intention. When it finished, it looked at me. I laughed. From that day on, the fox appeared whenever danger came close. When I was 3, a fever burned through me for 7 days. Doctors said I would not survive the night. The fox lay beside my pillow, its body pressed against mine. By morning, the fever broke. When I was 6, I wandered into a frozen river. The ice cracked beneath my feet. I remember fur sinking into the water, before I felt hands pull me free. At night, I dreamed of fire and forests, of eyes watching from the dark. Master Lu visited once a year. Each time he looked older. Each time he said less. On my 12th birthday, he finally spoke the truth. The curse was never meant for you, he said. You are collateral. He told me about my grandfather, about the fox mother, about the debt that could not be paid with death alone. Foxes do not forget, he said, but they also do not waste what can be reclaimed. I asked him what would happen when I turned 18. He did not answer. That night, the fox spoke for the first time. You will choose, it said. Between what and what, it did not say. As my 18th year approached, the world thinned. Mirrors showed reflections that lagged behind. Animals avoided me or followed me too closely. People dreamed of me without knowing my name. On the eve of my birthday, the fox disappeared. In its place, a young woman stood at my door. Her hair was white. Her eyes were the same. My name is Bai Shihan, she said, and we have been promised to each other since you drank blood at the altar. Behind her, in the distance, the ruined temple waited, and the foxes had come to collect. After Bai Shihan appeared, my life no longer belonged entirely to the human world. She did not move into our house. She did not eat our food. She came and went like mist, present when danger approached, absent when things seemed normal. To outsiders, she was just a distant relative, a quiet girl with pale hair and eyes that never reflected light the same way twice. To me, she was certainty. Where she walked, shadows retreated. Where she slept, nightmares did not cross the threshold. But protection always demands payment. My mother grew thinner by the month. At first, we blamed age, exhaustion, grief she had never been allowed to express. Then the coughing started. Blood followed. Master Lu came once more. He stood beside her bed, took her wrist, and closed his eyes. She has already paid, he said quietly. More than required. My mother smiled at me. It was the same smile she had worn when she first held me. Soft, apologetic, resigned. That night, she asked Bai Shihan to leave the room. I know what you are, my mother said without fear, and I know why you stayed. Bai Shihan knelt. You do not belong to this debt, my mother continued, but you have carried it anyway. She died before dawn. No spirits came for her body. No shadows lingered. For the first time in generations, death arrived cleanly. At the funeral, Bai Shihan did not cry. Foxes do not cry for the inevitable. After my mother's death, something changed in me. The foxes noticed. I began to resent the quiet vigilance, the way Bai Shihan watched me sleep, the way villagers lowered their voices when she passed. I wanted to be ordinary, invisible, unmarked. One night, after a drunken fight in town where someone called me the fox spawn, I came home furious. Bai Shihan was waiting. You should not have followed me, I snapped. I always follow you, she replied calmly. I struck her. The sound was sharp, final. For the first time since my birth, Bai Shihan stepped back. Her eyes darkened, not with anger, but with understanding. So this is the moment, she said softly. She turned and walked into the forest. She did not look back. Days passed, then weeks. Without her, the world crept closer. Shadows returned to corners. Dreams grew heavier. Animals gathered near the house again. Once I woke to find fox tracks circling my bed. Master Lu died that winter. No one inherited his knowledge. On my 17th birthday, a magpie landed on the window and refused to leave. It stared at me until dawn. 3 nights later, a lock of white hair appeared on my pillow, tied with red thread. The promise had not been broken, it had only been delayed. On the night I turned 18, it did not rain. The sky dimmed too early, as if daylight itself refused to witness what was about to be decided. The eastern forest waited in silence. The path was still there, rotting leaves, damp earth, but no human footprints remained. Only the smell of decay lingered, the scent of things abandoned yet never gone. The ruined temple emerged from the darkness. Its roof had collapsed inward. The wooden pillars leaned like old bones. The broken signboard hung crooked, its carved characters long erased by time. This was where my grandmother had hanged herself, where my brother had been found dead with spirit money stuffed into his mouth. Every road my bloodline walked eventually led back here. I crossed the threshold. The wind died. Candles were already burning inside the temple. Not by my hand. An incense smoke curled from the 4 corners of the altar. On the ground, a circle had been drawn with ash and dried chicken blood. I recognized the script instantly. Master Lu's markings. Not meant to suppress or seal, but to judge. You've finally arrived. The voice came from behind me. Bai Shihan stepped out of the shadows, dressed in white, her hair loose down her back. But she was no longer the quiet guardian who lingered at the edge of my life. Behind her, shapes took form, foxes, many of them, some with a single tail, others with 3. Some so old their fur had faded to ash, their eyes deep as ancient wells. And standing above them all, upon the highest stone step, was the fox elder, tall, imposing, 9 tails, spreading like the canopy of a great tree, filling the ruined hall. This bloodline, his voice echoed without lips moving, owes us 3 lives and a broken vow. The air rippled, images surfaced like smoke. My grandfather raising his rifle, the fox mother falling, the cubs killed, ash scattering across the forest floor. We are entitled to repayment, the fox elder continued. By your death or by your continuation? My hands tightened. Continuation how? I asked. Bai Shihan stepped beside me. Her calm had fractured. Through marriage, she said, through your renunciation of the human world and entry into the Fox clan. Your bloodline ends among humans, and so does the curse. Another path revealed itself. If I died, everything ended. No descendants, no debt, no me. If I followed them, I lived, but not as a man. I looked down at the temple floor. Ash, blood, old rainwater, blended into a color without a name. Generations had stood here without choice, without voice. Do I have the right to refuse? I asked. The fox elder was silent for a long time. Yes, he said at last, but refusal does not erase debt. It only chooses another payer. I understood immediately. If I walked away, the curse would seek another child, some distant branch of the family that had forgotten this place ever existed. Bai Shihan took my hand. I protected you for 18 years, she whispered. Not so you would die tonight. I looked at her, the white fox who lay beside me through fevers, who dragged me from frozen water, who left after I struck her, not from hatred, but because this moment had to be my choice. Why you? I asked. Her smile was sad. Because I am the daughter of the fox who died at your family's door, she replied. This is repayment and reconciliation, the only way both can end. The wind surged through the temple. The candles flickered violently. I stepped into the circle of ash. There was no thunder, no blinding light, only the feeling of a door closing behind me, gently, irrevocably. I accept, I said, but not as a debtor. I turned to the fox elder. If I enter the fox clan, then from this night forward, no spirit of my bloodline will ever be touched again. No tests, no reminders, no watchers. Silence stretched until time itself seemed to pause. Then the fox elder nodded. So be it. The ash beneath my feet arose, wrapping around my body. Pain surged through my bones, through my skin, not tearing me apart, but rewriting me. Bai Shihan held me. Outside, the ruined temple collapsed with a dry, final crack. When the sun rose, nothing remained. No temple, no curse, only forest, and 2 sets of footprints leading deep into Qingqiu, where humans are no longer called by their old names. Many years after the night the ruined temple collapsed, no one spoke the name Wei Qing anymore. Not because it was forgotten, but because no one knew how to remember it properly. The old village changed its name. The eastern forest was partially cleared to make way for a quarry. People said there had once been an ancient shrine there, but no trace of it could be found. Only the older woodsmen still avoided going too deep, though no one forced them to. That forest is cold, they would say, not the kind of cold that comes from wind. Strangely enough, that bloodline truly ended. No more children were born sickly. No more infants with unsettling eyes. No more shared dreams of white foxes standing at the edge of beds. Distant branches of the family, ones that had long forgotten their connection to the old village, found their strange illnesses fading, as if something had quietly withdrawn from their blood overnight. Only one thing remained: stories. Some claimed that on thin moon nights, 2 figures could sometimes be seen on the slopes of Qingqiu Mountain. One human-shaped, one not quite human. They never moved, never spoke. They simply stood there, as if guarding an invisible boundary. Some laughed at the idea, some fell silent, and some, usually children or people close to death, would stare toward that mountain for a long time, then turn away calmly, as if they had just remembered something important. Once, many years later, a man wandered into the forest. He was not from the area. He said he was looking for a shortcut. When asked why he had gone so deep, he only answered, "I heard someone calling me." They found him the next morning, asleep beneath an old tree. He was unharmed. Nothing was missing. In his coat pocket, however, was a single white hair tied with red thread. He never returned to that forest. When questioned, he only said, "I was shown the way. There's no need to go back." No one understood what he meant. But from then on, whenever someone became lost in those woods, they were often found before it was too late, near a stream, at the forest's edge, or standing on a path that had not existed the day before. There were no footprints leading them out, only wind. People began leaving small offerings at the forest's edge on certain days. No incense, no prayers, just a bowl of clean water, sometimes a boiled egg, set down quietly before leaving. No one said it was worship. It was simply a way of remembering that some debts, once fully paid, never need to be mentioned again. That some choices, made at the right moment, can save even those who have not yet been born, and that some people, though no longer belonging to the human world, still stand silently to keep it from drifting too far out of balance. In Qingqiu Forest, night still falls as it does everywhere else. The only difference is this: there is no longer resentment in the darkness, only a deep, enduring silence, like a promise that has been kept. Thank you for listening until the final moment. If you enjoy stories woven from folklore, fate, and the unseen, Subscribe and follow the channel so we can meet again in the next story told after dark.